Welcome back to those who've been hanging with me some time, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm Adele Levine, intuitive and medium. All right, guys, so I'm just going to get a little housekeeping out of the way first. Just to let you know, I am doing a medium gallery, 2 spots online, very few tickets, because I'm going to keep the group small. What a medium gallery is, I'm going to give little mini medium readings to everybody who shows up. You show up, you get a ticket, you're on the online medium gallery, you get a reading. This is how I do them in person, but I'm splitting them up in 2 days so that we can take our time. So it will be, one will be on March 12th and one will be on March 20th. You can check that out on my website at adelevine.com. Also, just let you know, I am still offering 50% off of my readings, probably for about another month, with the code PEACE. Okay, let's get started on this subject. I've been wanting to do this subject for some time. Hold on one second. I am using this nice little mug to make me feel a little bit better, to help me escape over into another land. Okay. Let's get this subject going. I've been wanting to do this subject for some time. This is a little bit of a serious subject, so just to let you know, this isn't one of those that you might want to just, be doing a bunch of other things and listening. Not saying you have to just sit here and watch what I'm doing, but I'm saying obviously this is a subject that I take seriously, and I want you to know that it might make you feel a little bit emotional. And the subject is about grief. And I wanted to talk about this, and I deal with grief in what I do, obviously, as a medium. I don't just read people and do medium readings. I help people a lot with the idea and the understanding of grief, because I feel, at least in the States where I am, grief is not really something that is talked about and helped with people. I really feel it is a hush, like let's not talk about subject. I know that sounds strange, but people are definitely pushed into the world after someone passes in their life, meaning people tend to not want to talk to you about your grief. So I wanted to start with one simple statement. Grief is not depression. I am no expert on depression. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I am someone who has helped many, many people through grief. I myself have gone through quite a bit of grief in my life. And I can tell you that the thing that I have noticed, that when people come to me or they have gone through a loss, they literally will say, I feel like I'm depressed, or something wrong with me. People will say things like, there's something wrong with me. And I have to always convey, there's nothing wrong with you. You lost someone. You are grieving. So here's one of the first things I want to say, besides that it's not depression. One of the most important things I want to point out is this. When you lose someone, and someone in your life has passed, I'm talking specifically a passing. I know there's other types of griefs, but this is specifically about losing someone who has died. And when this happens, we are told that there's different stages of grief, right? There's, denial, then there's anger, then there's acceptance. I feel that most of the time people think that these stages are weeks, even months, because I see people kind of like 3-4 months are telling themselves, I don't know why I'm still having such a hard time, because someone passed. When someone passes, it is very different than other types of losses. It's extremely different. Every other type of loss we are used to understanding how to deal with. You lose a job, you even break up with someone, you move, all kinds of other changes in life. You mourn it, you go, oh man, you may even get together with friends and say, hey, this was crazy. I, broke up with this person, or I lost my job, and you might cheer each other up. You might go out and have drinks or whatever you're going to do to kind of, get through that time, but you feel like there's something you can do about it. meaning you're like, okay, I am talking to people. I'm maybe even just, letting myself feel pretty shitty for a while, and I'm going to get through it. But that is not the case with grief. When it comes to grief, it's completely different. Grief is not one of those things you get through. When you lose someone, the reason why it feels so difficult is because you can't do anything about it. You can't change it. It's permanent. It feels hard for the mind and the heart to catch up with each other. Let me know in the comments, have you felt like something's wrong with you? Have you felt like I'm depressed? There's something wrong with you? And have people made you feel this way? Like, why aren't you better? It's been a year. Because if you let people know in the comments, again, like I say always, it helps other people to hear each other's stories. I will comment on your comment to feel like there's a community together that's helping each other through this, that you are not alone. So let me explain this. When you lose someone, this is just my experience, it takes about a year, I feel, before the mind and the heart to catch up with each other. Your mind is telling you, I've lost someone. Logically, I know this. I know this to be true. This is what's happening. I know this in my mind. Your heart's going, this isn't happening. This can't be happening. So the mind and the heart tend to argue with each other. No, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. For a year, I feel. You may even go through moments, those stages of grief we talked about may even be happening through that year. 1 minute you're accepting it, the next minute you're pissed off, the next minute you're denying it, and it just cycles. I always see it like a roller coaster ride that you have, like, okay, I really kind of feel I understand this. Something comes on the TV, something comes on your phone, you see someone, triggers you, and now you're back into, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. This is normal. This is part of grief. And the reason why I wanted to stress that it's not depression, because depression is something people truly battle. It's a real thing that people go through, and they kind of don't always know why. When people are going through depression, it's like, I'm not sure what's happening. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I suddenly 1 minute I felt happy and now I'm going through this depression? That's why I'm trying to let you know that this is very two different things. You do know why you're feeling the way you're feeling. You absolutely have complete knowledge of why, and you have complete right. People who are going through depression also have that right. But what I feel like happens to people in grief, they are treated like, hey, there's a time stamp on how long you're allowed to grieve. So if you're grieving and you're having a hard time, people want to immediately make you feel like there's something wrong with you. Has this happened to you? Because I know when I experienced it when I was younger and didn't have the understanding, I know it happened to me. And I know absolutely it happens to people because people tell me all the time. And it is okay for you to tell yourself, you are going to go through these ups and downs and these roller coaster rides of grief. It is okay. Just like it's okay for someone to know that they're going through a depression, just because it seems like they're very close to each other, meaning like they feel similar. And obviously, if you're someone who's gone through depression, you're going to think, okay, I'm going through grief. If you gone through it and you lost someone, you're going to feel like, oh, here we go again. But it is different, because grief is you are pinpointing a reason why you just can't seem to get out of bed, why you can't seem to feel good. You can't fix it. What I mean by is the reason. The problem is that the world around you tell you that reason has only a short time to be valid. Meaning, it's been a year, you should be getting over this. Have you heard that before? And I'm going to explain to you very simply. what I have been saying for as long as I've been doing this. You do not get over a loss. You learn to live with it. That is what grief is to me. To me, grief is learning to live with this pain. This is why it's so life-changing, because it's not one of those things you go, oh, I got over that hump. I lost my job. I changed, where I live. I broke up with someone. You go, okay, I learned to kind of grow and get over that. And I fixed it in a way, right? And I've transformed into this new existence and I'm okay. But grief isn't one of those things. That's why your mind is boggled by it, because you can't fix it. This is a permanent loss and you can't change it. Anything you do isn't going to suddenly transform it into something else. That's why you are learning to live with this loss. And so it is like a piece of you has been cut off and you have to learn how to go through life without it. So know that. Know that's what you're going through. You are learning to live with this loss. It could be 20 years and you could still feel that pain. Not as sharp, obviously, as when it first happened, but you still miss that person. Let me also make another important statement. In spirituality and what I do as a medium, believing in the other side, believing in the afterlife, believing that our spirits move into another dimension, I am never saying that that's going to replace that you want that person to walk through that door. Never. You're always going to want the person you miss to call you up on the phone, physically walk through that door. When I'm trying to show people about the other side and that our spirit moves to somewhere else and that person that you've lost is trying to connect with you, talk to you, send you signs, help you feel them, all of those things, I'm never saying it's going to 100% replace that you want that person to give you a hug and you want them to be physically in your space. Of course not, because we're human beings. And as human beings, we want that person to connect with us. And that is normal and natural and healthy and okay. The spiritual part that I teach is to help you learn and understand that when someone leaves us in this world, they didn't just disappear like we're taught. We are taught most of the time they just disappear, and that's why it's like, we'll just move on. They're no longer here anymore, so move on. That's what we're told, move on. Just forget the move on statement. Just forget people who are telling you to move on. Just don't listen to that. You don't need to move on. You are going to learn to live with this pain. And it means it's going to ebb and flow, kind of like the ocean going in and out. And you'll have times where it'll be these high tides and there'll be times where it won't. And that's okay. And that is pretty much what's important to me about talking about grief. Because believe it or not, I talk about it a lot in what I do. It's a very big part of what I do. And lastly, I want to say this. There isn't a degree of grief, meaning like we don't need to compare this person's grief is worse than this person's grief, but there are different types and we have to respect that. Someone who has lost a parent is a little different than someone who lost a child. These are very different griefs. It's not to compare whose pain is worse than the other, but they are very different losses that do different things. And it also depends on the person and the circumstances. It's just very personal. So if you are someone who's watching this, who knows someone who's going through grief, understand that their personal grief is their personal grief, and bringing up your own experience of like, when this happened to me, I know it seems like you're helping them, but it kind of doesn't help because you are not them. Your intentions can be very beautiful and wonderful, but it probably is making the person not feel seen. So what do? You just say this: listen, I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here for you to listen to. I'm here for you to talk to, and I'm going to do it by calling you or texting you. Even if you're not answering me, I'm going to let you know. That's all people want. That's all people need, because what people tend to do is the phone rings and rings and rings in the first few months, and then it stops. And people kind of stop checking and they stop seeing. The hardest part of grief is not when it first happens. It's actually the months and months later. When 6 months down the road, when you're taking out that plate and you realize, oh wait, they're not here. I need to put it back. Those days are harder. When you're going through the shock of the grief and everyone's around you, it doesn't sting in the same way as when now life, or what you deem as other people, have moved on, and now you're learning to live with this pain. I hope this helped. Please know that I did this video because it is something I talk about and I do all the time in my readings, and I really, really noticed that this is something I kind of feel out when it's time to do a video of like, okay, this has been coming up a lot. It's always come up, but for some reason I kind of felt like, I feel like we're going through such a hard time and people are battling so many things that if this is one of them, you might be mixing it up, and maybe this was a good time to do it. Please let me know, like this video if this helped you, or share it if it helped you and you might want to help someone else. I don't say that on every video, but these type of videos that I know people are struggling, and sometimes people are telling people these, like, I don't know, very insensitive, things to do during this time. Then this is a time I do say maybe you could share this with someone who you think might benefit from it. Thank you so much. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.